Welcome to Vital Steps with Dr. Adler. This is the show that helps you feel strong, clear, and healthy.
It's good
no
to
matter
see you
your
again,
age.
Doctor.
Each week, we share simple advice that's backed by science and full of wisdom. We talk about food, movement, sleep, and everything in between.
Hello, guys. Welcome to this episode with, of course, our own Dr. Adler. In this episode, we're talking about something super important. Something that could change how you feel every single day. If you've got stiff joints, achy knees, or fingers that just don't bend the way they used to, this one's for you. Because today, we're diving into the 3 so-called friendly foods that are secretly making arthritis worse. Yup, foods you probably thought were safe, but they're actually triggering painful flares. So, stay tuned, and trust me, you'll want to hear every word Dr. Adler has to say. Dr. Adler, let's get into it. This first one is going to surprise a lot of people. Fried and processed foods. People eat them all the time. And some even think they're fine in small amounts. But, are they really that bad for arthritis?
Oh, yes, they're worse than you think. Fried and processed foods are not just empty calories. They're little inflammation bombs. I always say, if you've got joint pain and you're still eating fried foods, you're basically feeding the fire. Let's break it down. Fried foods and heavily processed snacks are full of something called AGs, advanced glycation end products. These are toxins that form when food is cooked at high temperatures, like frying, grilling, or roasting with a lot of fat and sugar. Now here's the scary part. Those AGs don't just vanish after you eat them. They build up in your body, especially in joints, bones, and tissues. And for people with arthritis, especially rheumatoid or osteoarthritis, this buildup can trigger big flare-ups.
So, wait, are you saying it's not just the grease and the oil, but the way the food is cooked?
Exactly. It's the method, the temperature, and the ingredients. For example, when you fry bacon, grill a steak, or roast a chicken at high heat, you're cooking in a way that creates tons of AGs. Then when you eat that food, those AGs don't just pass through. They stick around. They trigger oxidative stress, which is like little explosions inside your cells. Your immune system sees this damage and sends in cytokines. Those are the chemicals that cause swelling, stiffness, and joint pain. That's inflammation, plain and simple. And here's the kicker. Studies show that people with arthritis already have higher levels of AGs in their bodies than people without. So, when they eat more, it just piles on.
Wow, that really explains a lot. And Dr. Adler, I saw this one study from Mount Sinai School of Medicine. It said when people cut back on fried meats and frozen dinners, their inflammation actually went down. Not just a little, but a real difference.
That's right. That study is a big one. It showed that when people swapped out fried and processed foods for more fruits and vegetables, their markers for inflammation improved. We're talking about C-reactive protein levels and other signs in the blood that show inflammation levels. And you know what else? That same group of people said they felt better. Less pain, more mobility, even better sleep. So it's not just about what's happening inside. It's how it shows up in your everyday life.
Okay, I have to ask, what about stuff like frozen chicken nuggets or box meals? Are those part of the problem too?
Absolutely. Those are what we call highly processed foods. They might not look fried, but they're often pre-cooked at high temps, loaded with preservatives, and packed with ingredients that spike inflammation. We're talking about refined grains, added sugars, artificial fats, all the stuff that keeps food on shelves for months. These foods are made to taste great and last long, but they're not made with your joints in mind. And here's something else. Processed foods can also lead to obesity, which puts extra pressure on your joints. That alone can make arthritis worse.
So, it's a double whammy, more inflammation and more weight on the joints?
Exactly. And that's why I always tell my patients, if you want to take real steps to reduce arthritis flares, you've got to clean up the diet. Start by tossing out the fried foods and frozen meals. Even those breakfast sandwiches or healthy-looking energy bars can be hiding a lot of trouble.
And I bet a lot of people think, oh, just once in a while won't hurt. But from what you're saying even small amounts can keep those inflammation levels up, right?
That's true. With ages, it's not just how much you eat, it's how often. These compounds build up, and over time, even small daily exposures can turn into big joint problems. Think of it like this. Every time you eat fried or processed foods, it's like adding another layer of rust to your joints. One layer might not be a big deal, but after weeks or months, that rust turns into pain.
Okay, Dr. Adler, now let's help people out here. If someone's used to eating fried chicken, burgers, or frozen pizzas, what can they eat instead that won't trigger arthritis?
Great question. There are so many options. Instead of frying your food in oil, try using an air fryer. You'll get that crispy taste without the harmful AGs. Or go with baking or steaming. Those methods keep the food healthy and gentle on your joints. Swap out those greasy meals for dishes full of vegetables, whole grains, and lean proteins. Salmon, sweet potatoes, spinach, berries. These are all natural inflammation fighters. And don't forget about herbs and spices. Turmeric, ginger, garlic. They're not just flavorful, they help lower inflammation too.
That sounds delicious and healing. But Dr. Adler, one last thing. What about people who say, but I've eaten fried food all my life, and I feel fine?
Ah, yes. I hear that a lot. And my answer is this. Just because you don't feel it now doesn't mean it's not doing damage. Arthritis can take years to show up. And by the time symptoms start, it's often been building for a long time. Think of your joints like tires. You can drive on bad roads, and they'll still roll. But slowly, the wear adds up. One day, you hit a bump, and suddenly they're flat. That's how arthritis works too. So it's better to protect your joints before the flares come.
That makes total sense. So guys, if you're listening today, remember this: fried and processed foods are not just bad for your waistline. They're quietly making arthritis worse. Even the healthy-looking ones can be trouble. Dr. Adler, this was amazing. Thank you for breaking it down so clearly.
Anytime. If I can help one person wake up with less pain tomorrow, it's worth it. And trust me, once you start cutting these foods out, your body will thank you.
All right, viewers, and if you've been following along, you already know we're shining a big spotlight on foods that seem safe, but are actually stirring up arthritis flares. And, of course, we've got our go-to expert, Dr. Adler, with us again. Dr. Adler, this next one is going to break some hearts. Because let's be real, people love their sweets, cookies, cakes, soda, even a little ketchup with fries. But are you saying that sugar might be one of the worst foods for arthritis?
Oh, yes. I wish I could say otherwise. But sugar is a sneaky little troublemaker when it comes to joint pain. You might not taste it in every food, but it's there, hiding in more places than you'd ever imagine. And if you've got arthritis, it's one of the first things I tell my patients to avoid.
Let's break that down. Most people think of sugar as just candy and soda, but it's way more than that, right?
You nailed it. Sugar isn't just in cupcakes and candy bars. It hides in fruit juice, salad dressing, white bread, ketchup, barbecue sauce, even in yogurt. You might not even taste the sweetness, but it's there in grams that add up fast. And here's the deal. When you eat sugar, your blood sugar spikes. That sounds normal, right? But inside your body, it's not. That spike tells your system to release something called cytokines. These are chemicals that make inflammation worse, and that's exactly what arthritis doesn't need.
So, sugar causes inflammation, even if it's just a little bit?
Even just a little can spark a flare. There's one study I really like to point out. It followed 217 people with rheumatoid arthritis. They looked at how 20 different foods affected their pain. Want to guess what came out worst?
Don, tell me soda and desserts?
You got it. Sugar-sweetened sodas and sweet treats like cakes and pies were the top two foods that made arthritis symptoms worse. These weren't people guessing. They were reporting what they felt in their own bodies. Real pain, real stiffness. And it happened fast after eating those sugary foods.
That's scary. And I read that just one can of soda, just one, has enough sugar to trigger that whole inflammatory reaction.
Yes. All it takes is about 40 grams. That's the same amount in a typical can of soda. You drink it in a few sips and suddenly your body is on high alert. The immune system thinks something is wrong and boom, those cytokines get to work, inflaming your joints, making them sore, and sometimes even swelling them up. It's like throwing gasoline on a small fire. You might not feel it instantly, but it builds up, and for someone with arthritis, that can turn into a very bad day.
So, sugar doesn't cause arthritis, but it definitely makes it worse?
Exactly. The research doesn't show that sugar starts the disease, but once you've got it, or even just a little joint stiffness, the sugar will absolutely make it louder. Some studies even show that cutting sugar out lowers the risk of rheumatoid arthritis in the first place. It's not magic, but it's powerful.
Okay, now what about fruit? People always ask, what about the sugar in fruits? Is that dangerous too?
That's a great question. Natural sugars in whole fruits are different. They come with fiber, vitamins, and antioxidants that protect your joints. So, I'm not worried about an apple or a handful of berries. What I am worried about is fruit juice. That's like drinking the sugar without any of the good stuff. Stick to whole fruits, skip the juice, and definitely stay away from anything labeled fruit drink or fruit cocktail. Those are just sugary drinks in disguise.
Okay, I am going to name a few foods, and I want your honest take. Ready?
Let's go.
Cookies,
Inflammation bomb,
cake,
double whammy, sugar and refined flour,
white bread,
also bad. Breaks down just like sugar in the body.
soft drinks,
One of the worst. Sugar with no nutrition.
ketchup.
Well, a lot of brands are basically liquid sugar with tomato flavor.
Wow. So, what can people eat instead when they get those sweet cravings?
There are so many better choices. Try a bowl of fresh fruit or some unsweetened applesauce with a sprinkle of cinnamon. You can even bake your own snacks at home, using things like almond flour, oats, and just a touch of honey or maple syrup. Not every day, but as a treat. The key is to keep the sugar low and the fiber high.
And what about reading labels? That can be tricky, right?
Yes, and here's the secret. Sugar hides behind many names. You'll see words like fructose, sucrose, corn syrup, and dextrose. If it ends in ose, chances are it's sugar. Some products even list multiple types of sugar, so it doesn't look like there's much. But if sugar shows up more than once in the first 5 ingredients, put it back on the shelf.
So smart. And Dr. Adler, I'm guessing sugar also plays a role in weight gain, which adds more pressure to the joints?
Oh yes, sugar gives you empty calories. You don't get full, but you do gain weight, especially around the belly. And that extra weight puts stress on your knees, hips, and lower back. It's like walking around with a backpack full of bricks. Over time, that pressure wears down the joints and makes the arthritis worse.
Okay, final question. For someone listening right now who loves sweets but has arthritis, what's one thing they can do today?
Start small. Look at what you drink first. If you drink soda, switch to water or herbal tea. If you like something sweet, add a slice of lemon or cucumber. That one change can lower your sugar by a lot. Then, swap store-bought sweets for homemade ones with less sugar and more fiber. You don't have to be perfect, just better.
That's so helpful. So, guys, we've learned something big today. Sugar may taste sweet, but it acts bitter inside your body, especially if your joints are already struggling. Okay, moving on. This next one gonna surprise some people, because we're not talking about candy or fried chicken today. We're talking about gluten. Yep, that stuff hiding in bread, pasta, cereal, even your morning toast. Is it really something that can make arthritis flare up?
Yes, it can. And while gluten doesn't cause arthritis directly, it can make the pain and swelling worse for some people. Gluten is a group of proteins found in wheat, rye, barley, and some other grains. It gives bread its soft, stretchy texture. However, inside the body, especially in people who are sensitive, gluten can trigger inflammation. And for people with arthritis, that's a big problem.
But hold on, gluten is in so many foods. Sandwiches, spaghetti, crackers, even soups. How could something so common be so harmful to our joints?
That's a great point. Gluten is everywhere, which makes it tricky. But here's the thing. If you've got inflammatory arthritis, like rheumatoid arthritis, your immune system is already on high alert. So when gluten enters the body, it can confuse your immune cells and cause them to attack not just the gluten, but your own tissues, like your joints. It's like your body goes into battle mode, even though gluten isn't dangerous for everyone. That immune attack brings more inflammation, and that's when the joint pain, stiffness, and swelling hit hard.
Wow. So it's kind of like pouring gas on a fire that's already burning?
Exactly. Inflammation is already part of arthritis. Gluten just adds more fuel. And we've seen this, especially in people who have celiac disease. That's an autoimmune condition where gluten actually damages the small intestine. But guess what? Many of those same people also develop joint pain and even full-blown arthritis. In fact, the Celiac Disease Foundation says that kids with celiac disease have a higher chance of getting juvenile arthritis. And adults with celiac are more likely to develop other autoimmune disorders too, like RA or thyroid disease.
Okay, now this is getting serious. But Dr. Adler, what about people who don't have celiac disease? Can gluten still be a problem?
Yes, and that's the tricky part. Even without celiac, some people are gluten sensitive. They don't have full damage in the gut, but they still feel bad after eating gluten. Their joints ache, they feel tired, they get bloated or even foggy in the brain. And while science is still catching up, we know that many of these folks feel better when they go gluten-free.
So, if someone with arthritis tries skipping gluten and their pain goes down, that's a good sign, right?
Absolutely. There was one study that looked at people with RA who tried a gluten-free vegan diet. Now, they cut out more than just gluten. They also skipped meat and dairy. But guess what happened? Their inflammation went down. Their joint pain got better. So, while gluten might not be the only cause, it's part of the picture for some.
That's wild. But let's be real, cutting gluten sounds hard. No bread? No pasta? What do people even eat?
It's not as hard as it sounds. These days, there are so many gluten-free options. Brown rice, quinoa, sweet potatoes, gluten-free oats. These are all safe. You can also find gluten-free versions of pasta, bread, and even pancakes. The key is to read labels. If it says wheat, barley, or rye, put it back on the shelf. Also, focus on whole foods. Fresh veggies, fruits, fish, lean meat, beans, and nuts. All of those are naturally gluten-free. You don't have to give up good taste. You just have to eat smart.
And I'm guessing processed foods are no-go too?
That's right. Processed foods often hide gluten in the form of thickeners or flavor enhancers. Things like soups, sauces, dressings, even some candies and chips might contain gluten, and you wouldn't even know. So again, check those labels. Gluten can hide under names like malt, hydrolyzed wheat protein, or even modified food starch.
So, Dr. Adler, let's say someone listening right now has arthritis, but has never thought about gluten. What would you tell them?
I'd say try a simple test. Cut gluten from your diet for a few weeks. See how you feel. If your joint pain eases up, great. That might be your body's way of saying, hey, thank you. But don't do it alone. Talk to your doctor, maybe even a dietitian, and make sure you're still getting the nutrients your body needs. Remember, arthritis is personal. What triggers one person might not trigger someone else. But gluten is definitely worth paying attention to.
That's such a helpful way to look at it. And honestly, it's kind of empowering, right? Knowing that the food you eat can make you feel better if you just make a few smart changes.
Exactly. Food isn't just fuel, it's medicine. And when you've got arthritis, your plate can either heal or harm. If gluten is making your symptoms worse, removing it could be the easiest step toward feeling stronger, more mobile, and more in control.
So, guys, you heard it here. Gluten might be hiding in your favorite foods, but could also be sneaking behind your joint pain. So, if today's episode helped you see gluten, sugar, and fried food in a new light, hit that like button, leave a comment, and don't forget to subscribe. Stay strong, stay smart, and take care of those joints.